In this update, we have a split flow setup with an active jet stream all the way from Mexico to Florida. Then we've got a polar jet stream diving in from the northwest, going to bring some colder air and even some snow to the Rockies. But in the middle is going to be a dry slot, and that's going to set the stage for a split flow setup in between the two jet streams. So going forward, here's a satellite picture. Pretty active, a lot of cloud cover inundating a good part of South Texas all the way into Mexico. This is complements of an Eastern Pacific storm. This is actually Tropical Storm Lydia out here in formidable, almost in hurricane, is expected to become a hurricane. We also have Tropical Storm Max, and then we have some of the remnants trying to cross over into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's take a look at the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. It does in fact have a formidable tropical storm, a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm moving east-northeast, and this is expected to continue to intensify into a 100-mile hurricane in the next 36 hours and likely impact Puerto Vallarta as we go into Tuesday evening. So definitely be on high alert if you're down there vacationing, but that's going to continue to lift east northeast into Mexico, and some of the remnants is going to be crossing over into the Gulf of Mexico, as well as we also have Tropical Storm Max. This is another system, a 60-mile-per-hour tropical system. This is also expected to be crossing over, at least the remnants, and right now the National Hurricane Center has highlighted a 20% probability of some of that energy crossing over could try to reform and regenerate and back into the Gulf of Mexico. And then we also have yet another system out here off into the Atlantic. This could be Tropical Storm Sean here in the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I would love to reach 225,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. So let's break down the jet stream because it's pretty evident. I mean, this is your subtropical jet. We've got a low pressure center well south. This is extremely south, and that's the reason why most of this precipitation is going to be well south as well. So we're looking at impacts in portions of South Texas, streaming over into the Gulf of Mexico, but likely going to be inundating portions of, say, I-10, I-20 areas, but especially into Florida. We've got this powerful upper level low draped across the Great Lakes. That's still bringing some chillier air across those regions. And then, all eyes will be turned into the northwest. Is going to be have an active northwest flow kind of set up, and then that could set the stage for a formidable low pressure center with several rounds of severe storms on Wednesday and Thursday, and even some snow flying into portions of the Rockies. But heading south into the Gulf of Mexico, there is that high water content value. We're talking deep tropical moisture. Whenever you see values in this purple shaded range, that shows you the atmosphere is very prime for deep tropical downpours across this region. So it's going to spread that precipitation from Lydia and Max into the Bay of Campeche and lift northbound. So those areas into Brownsville, into Victoria, into the Rio Grande valleys should see some very heavy rain back into the Corpus Christi region over the next 2 days with this system. And this is going to continue to lift up to the northeast. It's going to have a lot of shear associated with it. So I'm not sure it's probably going to have time to generate into a tropical type system, but it is definitely going to bring some heavier rains draped across the I-10 corridor, likely into the I-20 corridor. But further north than that, that's the dry slot, and you're going to be missed out. But if you're underneath that, you're definitely going to be getting some heavier rains. So it's going to be likely into the Florida Panhandle, especially into central Florida and northern Florida, going into south and central Alabama, as well as into Georgia could hit hard, especially on the south side of Georgia, as this will be continue to move through Florida and actually go back over into the Atlantic. So on the big picture on the vorticity map, there's your south jet stream, well south, there's the upper level low, and then you've got these systems, 2 of them going to be back to back, coming in from the northwest, going to have a lot of energy associated with it. That's going to set the stage for likely some severe storms. It all unfolds on Wednesday afternoon. We've got a powerful jet streak streaming across, a lot of upward motion air. And then to the right of this system, that's where the severe weather setup's going to unfold. And then to the left of it, where that eye is, that's to the northwest. That's where the heavier snow is going to be flying out of this system. So further south, here's what the Storm Prediction Center has of currently of right now, where the highlighted area could be looking at some severe storms heading into your Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening time frame in central and southern portions of Nebraska, getting into portions of Kansas. So this is the area, the most favorite area of seeing that severe storms, and likely the same area into that Thursday time frame, into the Wichita region, into the Topeka region, back into Omaha. So definitely be on high alert, you know, as we get to that Wednesday, Thursday time frame in this corridor. But if you live up in the Rocky Mountains, you're likely going to be seeing your, you know, fairly decent, significant snowfall of the season. So it should be starting to fly coming out of Idaho, especially in Montana, back into Wyoming, and then through the Rockies. So these areas back into Aspen, those areas into the ski country, should start to see 3, 6, maybe 6, 8 inches amounts within this region, as that formidable low pressure center will set the stage for those 2 days of severe storms. And then we'll have that low pressure center come across into the Gulf, cross over into Florida with that heavier rain, but then likely cross back into the Atlantic. And this actually could continue on and might actually regenerate itself, but then safely go out to sea. But here's the setup on the surface map as we extend into, you know, later Thursday, heading into your Friday night time frame. That low pressure center really starts to get its act together, and where it does, that's really going to be setting the stage for some very heavy rain within this corridor, within southern portions of Minneapolis, getting into Iowa, especially into Illinois here, into Indiana, back into Ohio. This is the area that's the most favored at seeing some very heavy rain over that time frame. So definitely be on the lookout as this system looks to be, you know, kind of packing a punch with some higher wind gust and some heavier rains associated with it along that low pressure center. As that continues to push through, heading into your Saturday morning, we've got that dry slot coming in from that split flow that we talked about. So if you're in that dry slot, you're not going to get much of anything from this system. But you're still going to get the cool down in a big way, because that's what the northwest flow is going to bring. As you warm up in the middle of the week, we are going to be looking at another weekend cool down for a good part of the country, as this storm system will be racing up the East Coast, and this will be traversing across portions of Wisconsin into Michigan, going back into Ohio here, into Pennsylvania, and that'll set the stage for another wet weekend for the Northeast into New England. It's literally been 5 out of the last 6 weekends you've been hit hard with heavy rains, and yes, another one unfortunately is going to be on the table for you guys. But there's the colder air coming into Saturday, into that Sunday time frame. So much of the country, especially the middle of the country, is going to be experiencing that pleasant fall-like conditions, a lot like you saw the last weekend with that last cold front, where you get a reinforcing shot after a warm-up midweek. That comes in and sets the stage for, you know, clearing on the backside, that perfect radiational cooling, clear skies, light winds as high pressure sinks overhead, allows those temperatures to drop at night as soon as the sun goes down. But all eyes will definitely be on this low pressure center as it really starts to wind up and really starts to deepen again as we get into your Saturday afternoon, evening time frame up here into the Northeast. So locations into New Jersey, into the DC region, into Delaware, those areas into New York City are starting to get hit hard again with heavy rain. And we could be looking at this really starting to deepen and actually form some pretty significant winds potentially as we head into Sunday night time frame, as this could possibly shift back out into the open waters and really kind of wind itself up. So if we kind of zoom into some of these potential wind gusts as we go into Sunday afternoon, we've got some 80-mile-per-hour winds just kind of sitting offshore. So yeah, those could easily be moving inland. So we'll have to watch the timing of all this, but definitely looks like a fairly high impact event with heavy rain and definitely some damaging wind gusts in the order of 40+ miles an hour could approach even 60 plus at times within this region, as it just appears to be another nasty weekend up here with extremely heavy rain, and that cold front will continue to push from west to east. So setting up by the time we head into the weekend and the first couple of days of next week, these areas with the heavier rains associated with it are also going to be where your areas are going to be obviously below average as well. So these areas could be looking at 10, 15, almost upwards to 20 degrees below average, especially as you get in the Florida Panhandle. And you're going to be warming up in a big way, especially across areas across the west. The ridge pulls in and kind of sits there. Really, I think for the foreseeable future, this setup doesn't look to go away anytime soon, as you look to stay well above average for a continued long period of time, especially out west. And there's the split flow setup. So people are like, what is the split flow? So here's kind of a setup, right? You've got the active subtropical jet. So that's going to be setting up across Mexico and to South Texas and to I-10, I-20 corridor, but especially into Florida. This area is very high water content latent and could be looking at some very heavy rain. And then you got the North Branch coming in from the Northwest flow, coming in from the Pacific Northwest, diving across. So these set the stage for heavier rains where the low pressure center sets up shop. We could be looking at some heavier rain set up across the Dakotas through portions of Minnesota here into Iowa, through Indiana, and as well as Illinois and Ohio, and especially as you get up into the mid-Atlantic, into New Jersey, back in off the coast again. That sets the stage for very heavy rain, but there's the dry slot in between. So you've got the active setup coming in, but most of the precipitation with no lift out west, this area continues to remain dry, even with the cold fronts, because with no lift out ahead of it, you're not going to get any precipitation. You're going to get the dry side and the backside, the clearing side. You get the cold air, you get the radiational cooling, but you don't get the precipitation and that type of setup in this vicinity. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I do like this video, and definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update, why I protect you before and after the storm.